Hello friends. This is gonna be a different video than normal. I need to talk very honestly about what's going on. As some of you may know, last November I was cancelled, and it's time that I clear the air. Oh, it's so hot! I'm sorry, is anyone buying this? Like, is anyone sitting in front of these YouTuber apology videos and just like, okay, I know he was accused of pedophilia, but he does look sad. In all seriousness, I do think it's a good thing that James Charles is acting like an adult now, because how else is he gonna compensate for his taste in men? Okay, so why are we actually here? Last November, I was canceled on Instagram and Twitter for a very stupid TikTok that I made. More on that in a moment. It was humiliating and it completely broke me. And something I really struggled with was how to address it. You know, which do you do? Not acknowledge your shortcoming and hope it gets swept under the rug? Or highlight it as a mistake from your past and permanently cement it in your timeline? There's no answer to that question, but the more and more I see people addressing their own cancellation, the more I'm noticing a pattern. By the way, I'm saying canceled in this video, even though I believe that canceling is very much not a thing. What it actually is dogpiling and public shaming under the grounds of moral superiority. Anyway, I'm noticing that a trend with creators is when they address their own backlash. They'll sit in front of a camera and go over each of their tweets and videos and at length discuss the nuance. And I used to think of this as the gold standard. You know, it gets everyone on the same page. But the problem here is that none of these I was cancelled here's why videos are about the initial controversy. Realistically, these videos are about the personality themselves. It's about the brand that was damaged. And I'm not even talking about just the YouTubers whomst are bad. All of these apology videos take a subject like suspicious underage grooming, platforming individuals with problematic pasts, judging Asian media through an American lens, or the proper repercussions of holding all of Gotham City hostage. Generally, these apology videos are not a source of education, they are a public attempt to gain sympathy. It happens again and again, and those who are large enough and smart enough will always be able to take their cancellation and turn it into an opportunity to talk about themselves. So this video is gonna be an attempt to showcase what I did wrong without gathering any sympathy. I'm going to do my best to analyze how people who cancel others act through the lens of someone who's gone through it themselves, and illuminate some of the massive red flags that I see that generally go unnoticed. Because once we're able to recognize the rage-filled bully in someone else, we can see it in ourselves. You know, Gandhi said that. I'm kidding. It was Batman. Another goal with this video is to make it very clear that I do not believe I'm a victim or that I was oppressed by the internet. Because I don't believe that. The truth is, last November, I should have been canceled in the way that people think it works, which means I should have taken some time off, left social media for a while, and stepped back to collect my ideas and realized what I was wrong about. But instead, I was canceled in the way that it actually works, which means I was bombarded with a flurry of hate speech and shame in an attempt to make me feel as alone as possible. So gird your loins, ladies. This video is about to get very messy. Okay, so to help contextualize all of this, let's start with the 1-minute video that put me on Twitter's shit list. Buckle up, okay? I feel like a lot of people on TikTok don't understand the difference between body shaming and showing off. Because if I give you one of these, without context, without a perspective, I'm not body shaming. If you feel bad about yourself because you looked at me, that's your own brain spiraling. Now, there's a larger conversation to have as to why society is like this and what we can do to curb these negative emotions and build a stronger community. However, if you feel the need to go out of your way to put negative comments down or judge someone else for existing without a shirt on, it's not me doing the body shaming. Ooh. Okay, yeah, sure, okay. First off, I'm wrong. You can actually body shame someone inadvertently. Our society, by and large, is built around looking a certain way, and when you fit perfectly into that mold, you can still shame people for not fitting into that standard, regardless if you're doing it on purpose or not. Being a part of a bad system doesn't make you solely responsible, but it does mean you're part of the problem. 2, Most people aren't giving you one of these without a context or perspective. Honestly, the way I frame this is such a lazy cop-out. I don't think anyone is capable of fitting into the fitness aesthetic without reinforcing the structures. 3, if you looked at me and felt bad about yourself, that's your own brain spiraling. This is still true, but the way I said it was incredibly obnoxious. It sounds like I'm saying, why do you spend so much time not feeling confident? Why don't you just try being more confident? Which isn't really how the world works, is it? You never know what people have going on in the background, and to simplify all bullying into that's you spiraling is not the way to start that conversation, especially when you're shirtless. More on that later. And 4, yes, of course there's a larger conversation to have, but am I having it in this video? No. So if your hot take's not gonna have a hot take, don't make an egg. It's a stupid video. So here's what I should have said. Your unresolved trauma is not an excuse to abuse others online. A microaggression is still a microaggression, whether or not you think the person deserves it. But I didn't say that, did I? Instead, I made a shitty TikTok, and I'm not gonna show you the tweets because that would just inspire sympathy, but just for a second, imagine what Twitter would say. Yeah, it was like that, or worse, or not as bad. I don't know, it doesn't matter, does it? The point is, when your mentions are blowing up with varying degrees of hatred and confusion, it becomes impossible to tell what's actually going on. So I had to do my own educating. And I know that I'm very lucky to have the resources to allow me the correct tools to learn from the experts and to just hear more experiences and lifestyles. But let's be honest, most people don't have these resources. And what do you think happens when people don't learn from their mistakes? Barrett Paul. We meet again, Gorge. You know what? I want more drama. Where's the drama? No. Oh. Barrett Paul. This is so stupid. Oh my god, this is so stupid. Hi there, future Kevin here. While editing this video, there's a point that I don't think I made well enough, so let me elaborate before I even get to it. There's a small portion of this video that talks about black issues, and I feel obligated to discuss this topic because some of the people that I respect the most in this world are black. That being said, I cannot be the one to tell you who is an ally or whose allyship is most effective. And I certainly can't be the one to spearhead a movement of exclusion, not only because of reasons you'll learn later, but also because that's not the job of a white cisgendered man. Instead, this video is my way of comparing what I understand and what I have learned to what I believe another non-POC activist doesn't. And just to be extra clear, the thesis of this entire video is not to say you're not helping, but instead to turn that question around and ask, is this the most productive way you can help? And on that note, cheers. So Barrett, for those of you who don't know, is a fitness model, made social justice advocate, and life coach. I bring him up because we have a lot in common. We both center our careers around fitness, we both make content that involves social policies, and both of us have been dragged on Twitter for cringe posts. So the thing is, Barrett is a classic case of someone who takes concentrated backlash and dismisses it all as haters. I genuinely think he has good intentions, but it's also very clear that he has no idea how not to make an issue about himself. And I think that's partly the fault of the medium he's grown up in. When you're an influencer, your job is to take every piece of you and turn it into a universal consumable brand. Unfortunately, that concept is very capitalistic, and it's at complete odds with most social activism. The thing is, I don't think Barrett is a unique case. I just think he's the loudest. So I'm gonna tackle what he's done. We're gonna start with his misconceptions about body positivity. So this is gonna be a two-part journey, so hold on. Pull your lap bar down, okay?
This is what we glamorize in the gay world. We need to do better, y'all.
Okay, so not only is this incredibly cringe because of the editing, he's also managed to not say anything at all. Society glamorizes hot white people. Oh, okay, great discovery, Copernicus. What else? Is water wet? What's your point? And this is why it's so fun to laugh at the gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss memes, because it's a pointless take on simple opposition. We can sit here all day and say capitalism bad, misogyny bad, but it's so vague it doesn't provide any substance. But you know what? I'm in a good mood. Let's approach this video with the most generous translation. White people control the aesthetic market, and that's unfair. Correct. So now, it's no thoughts, no more glamorizing white fitness pages, give white people less attention. As if that changes the core problems of fat phobia, its willingness to push unhealthy supplements, and unrealistic results based on budget, lifestyle, and body types. Obviously, diversity is good, but no one in your audience isn't saying that. So as a white person, standing in front of your phone saying nothing, asking for validation about a point you did not make, perpetuates the cycle of white people doing the minimum and still getting credit. So then, when Barrett is approached with valid criticism, saying that he only exists because of the system that he now disavows, he says this.
Is what we glamorize in the gay world. We need to do better, y'all. Oh my god, yes, that is me. Thank you so much for taking the time to go through so many different sources to find those photos. That's really sweet of you. But thank you more than anything for being examples A through Z of when white gay men feel triggered when I talk about other white gay men who have large social media platforms and don't talk about anything of substance on there except themselves. So remember, justice for Jason Fox. Transgender youth are being targeted in Alabama for being trans, and there's a plethora of other things regarding racism, the environment, climate change, you name it, that we could all be talking about. But again, thank you. Oh, and you bet your ass I still feel sexy as fuck. That's why I'm sitting here shirtless, so.
Ooh, alright, shake it off, guys. Oh boy. So I fully understand the hypocrisy of what's about to come out of my mouth, but Barrett, put on a fucking shirt. I'm having a stroke. I need to calm down. Let's start with the body. I think a fundamental misconception about the body positive movement with skinny and mid-sized people is that they're centering the conversation around attractiveness and desirability. And that's part of it because everyone wants to be attractive. Everyone wants to feel that validation from society when they're not giving it to themselves. But the actual point of the body positive movement is to address the real discrimination that fat people face in society. Fat discrimination is well documented in employment, in healthcare, and in everyday life. And limiting that to everyone take off your shirt to be free of judgment just as I do is such a fantastic way to display your misunderstanding of the real oppression we're dealing with here. And Polly, it's super fucking great that you talk of things of substance, but take it from someone who knows, you have to be right about the substance if you want to take credit for talking about substance. Especially after the clear hypocrisy was pointing out to you by someone who could have been a lot meaner about it. And I'll say, this video is very revealing when it comes to shirtless activism that I don't think enough people know how to discuss without the blank canvas of rage. You know what? I'm gonna go on a tangent. I should change the color. No, I'm too lazy. This is a larger problem I see as a whole, like how people like to integrate the brand of activism without actually helping anyone but themselves. But we'll stick with Barrett here because he has this uncanny ability to inadvertently showcase the misconceptions about how the world works. Sometimes I can't tell which is worse, the highlights in his hair or the way he highlights systemic issues in our online culture. So what do I mean by shirtless activism? I would describe it as using your body or superficial attribute to promote social change that's unrelated to your body or superficial attribute. And I think there's a massive disconnect between creators and their audience with this topic. And for full disclosure, I used to be part of this problem. I used to think if I can get any amount of eyes on an issue I think is important, that's a net positive. If people want to see me shirtless, then I'm going to direct that shirtless ire to someone who needs it. A truly heroic mindset. And I think a lot of people are comfortable with ending the thought there because it has positive intent. But in practice, I don't think it does anything. Foolishly, I used to take my shirt off in the name of body positivity. Videos like these have been on my TikTok since I uploaded it. I know that my perspective is wrong here, but I wasn't told off or canceled because I was right enough, and also the video is not cringe. But the thing is, activism is not a brand and it's not a vibe. I don't even think it's what you say anymore. Activism is what you do and what you stand against and who you choose to surround yourself with. So like, great job on the photo, but I would ask, are you actually sharing anything new? Who out there is actually going to say, you know, I didn't support black people, but then I saw this influencer almost cut racist people out of his life, and it really turned things around for me? No, either they're going to dismissively scroll past, or they already agree and they're going to give you credit for being super great and super woke. It reminds me of that viral pageant question from Miss Virginia like 10 years ago.
The savagery of the ISIS threat to our security was demonstrated by the gruesome videos of 2 journalists and an aid worker being beheaded. What should our country's response be?
This is an absolute outrage, and something definitely needs to be done, but I don't think America needs to be the only one to do it. I really think it's important for the world, for the UN to come together and decide what's the best thing united that we do to really come together as a bigger and more impactful source to end this horrid thing that's happening.
Damn. I mean, she got all the words right. Clearly she has some politically sound head on her shoulders. But in watching that clip, my response isn't, oh wow, she's really educated me about crime and punishment on international divides. My response is more realistically, wow, I can't believe she answered that good for her. And just like the rest of the pageant, the question and response is just theater. And Instagram is the same way. If you actually want to help, give your time, give your ears, or give your money. This is not good enough anymore. The world is on fire and I do not like it that way. My anxiety is through the roof. All right, tangent over, back to Care Bear. I have to say, I'm pretty fascinated with Barrett because he always starts the video like he knows what he's talking about and then always just veers into white fragility land.
We sit one step away from the power structure that is.
Thank you so much, White Savior, for pointing out these very obvious examples of misogyny. A fundamental misunderstanding of what intersectionality actually is. The matter is, y'all don't run the risk of unemployment, homelessness, death by COVID, death by the state, or incarceration like me or any other black man, and you never will. Shoot, in 50 years, your kids won't run those risks like mine will. You ain't talking about intersectionality right now. You talking about neoliberal.
Intersectionality is the interconnectedness between things like race, class, and gender and how they apply to a specific group or individual. You know, why a black, queer, disabled woman is the most marginalized person in our country. You keep making this about me, but I keep asking everyone to listen to women of color. Furthermore, you think you know me, but you don't. My family grew up being poor, and that meant we were victim from 4 homes, which meant that I was homeless at certain points in my life. Yes, your definition of neoliberal politics is off.
Yikes. Okay, so Barrett did a very good job of reading the definition of intersectionality, but where it flops is where he's trying to bring his trauma into the conversation. Not to say he does not care, but by constantly framing himself around these issues, his activism comes off as flimsy as his stupid hats. Discrimination, to some degree, is measurable and can be compared to others. However, the trauma that you receive from that discrimination cannot. By bringing up your own trauma in a conversation about POC discrimination is a sneaky way of attracting sympathy towards yourself. It's true that we all experience some form of trauma and that your pain is valid. But in this context, Barrett isn't empathizing with the topic, he's trying to emotionally level the playing field, which is actually not how a conversation about discrimination works. And I want to reiterate, this isn't just a Barrett problem, this is a white person problem. I've done this before. I still probably do it sometimes. It takes a lot of emotional work to lift yourself out of the conversation and just exist in that lack of comfort, but that emotional work still has to be done. And unfortunately, Barrett does this all the time. He inserts his trauma as a way to excuse himself from criticism. For instance, here's his response to the pretty privileged conversation.
But you're so attractive. Life couldn't have been that hard for you. My parents were, and still are, emotionally abusive. My family was evicted from every home I grew up in. That's 4 in total. I've had a job since I was 14, and not just one, usually 3. At age 20, my parents became physically abusive towards each other. As the oldest, I've been forced to be the glue that holds my family together for most of our lives. I put myself through college. I paid for my little sister's senior year of college because my parents couldn't do that. My mother is completely dependent upon me, my brother, and my sister. As a child, I was bullied every day of my life. As an adult, I still face bullying pretty much every day. If I can't pay my bills, that's on me. I don't have parents or a family that I can fall back on. Remember, Judging someone by the way they look usually isn't the accurate judgment. People are going through a lot every day in some way.
You know what? I have to say, even in making this video and watching these TikToks, I can't help but notice how nice Barrett's skin is. If only he was as bright as the window he stood in front of. This is bullying, by the way. I'm bullying Barrett right now. Depending on how it's edited, this video does have the chance of me coming off a little pious. So let me just say, I am not against bullying. I'm not even against hate speech. I'm being particularly mean in this video, but I'm also doing it with mountains of context. I'm doing it by myself, and I'm doing it very publicly. Barrett can contact me anytime, and the same goes for anyone else watching this video. Oh my gosh, once I made a TikTok about how immature and rude it was for someone to make fun of someone crying and feeling real emotion in a video. The TikTok did pretty well, and the person who made the original tweet actually saw it and below commented something like, "They feel no shame, they'll do it again." So after seeing that, I quickly went back to their Twitter, definitely not to retweet any of their shitty jokes and make fun of them, but then I noticed that they deleted the original tweet that I made my video about. What a fucking coward. If you think it's that great of a tweet, if you're so proud of it, why don't you keep it up? Come on. I want to show my friends how great of a tweet it is. Anyway, back to my topic of pretty privileged. Fucking wonderful. Okay, so it's well documented in any class or race that the prettier you are, the nicer you're treated in society. But the statement of "you're pretty, therefore your life is easy" is such an oversimplification. I don't even know where to begin. And I'm a little confused as to why he phrased the question to himself like that. But I understand Barrett's frustration because I've gotten comments like this before and it's always a trap. You either have to debate aesthetics and point out some flaw that makes you insecure or less pretty, which makes you sound shallow, or you can do what Barry does, which is try to prove that no, actually your life was really hard, here are the reasons. But that's just as useless because whose life isn't hard? What does that even mean? The problem with the question is that it's a bad question. A good faith interpretation of those words would be something like, since you benefit from your natural aesthetic, what have you done to promote diversity and not perpetuate a system where looks determine merit? Isn't that better? Because now we're talking about homonationalism and not whether or not you think someone's pretty, because that conversation is going to be objective anyway. Specifically on TikTok and Twitter, I think we often get caught up in the little things. We like to focus on whether or not someone is pretty privileged or whether or not their words are problematic. Life is more complicated than that. I think what's way more important is that someone actually tries to represent the words that they say. Now, I've gone over a lot of Barrett's more problematic content here, and I would be lying by omission if I didn't point out that Barrett has gotten much better about sharing actually correct voices on his platform. However, that was written in my notes before I saw this video.
I want to take full accountability, responsibility, and apologize for what I said in a group of text messages that are currently going around on TikTok. Initially, I got defensive, and that's my white fragility, and that's something that I have to continue to work on. I'm not proud of that. It doesn't feel good, especially as someone who is continuing to be as anti-racist as possible. Over the last 24 hours, I have listened to friends and people here on TikTok critique what I have said and recognize how it is anti-black and pits two races against each other, something I would never want to actively promote or do. My intentions don't matter, and that's the point in this. It's what I said and it's what I did. I also don't expect you to just fully accept my apology because I'm making one. I want to prove myself to be better in this. I've already mentioned that I took a big step away from TikTok and ended a friendship because I recognized how I was not open to listening to more people's thoughts on this specific subject. I will do better, and I'm incredibly sorry.
So, my takeaway is that Barrett's someone who spends most of his time talking and not enough listening. And he's too busy generating internet noise to actually be the ally he's championing. So instead, he ends up promoting himself through his oddly oppressive brand of hollow wokeness. So in short, despite Barrett's feelings of moral superiority, he's largely just there to promote himself. And now that I've spent all of my time crapping on Mr. Paul to make Twitter happy, I want to direct my perspective to the dumbest and least consistent voice in the Twitter community. The Twitter community. Alright. That's how it works. I lure you in with the fun stuff and then I turn it on you. Take notes, that's how you build a narrative, ladies. Also, now it is nighttime. I went to go make dinner and now it is nighttime. I don't make these videos quickly. So I reached out recently on Instagram to ask people what their ideal goal of canceling is. And I got a pretty frustrating range of suggestions, from personal growth to having people literally go away forever. Like, this is such a wide array and diverse set of objectives that I can't fathom any of these people agreeing on anything. You know, it reminds me of the frustration behind dating apps. You have millions of people connecting through quick, snap judgments, not to mention the chaos behind the people who aren't communicating whether they want to just chat, go on a date, or maybe just fuck once and never see each other again. Unless you really know what you're trying to accomplish on these dating apps, the cards are stacked against you before you even start. I would argue that the main objective of canceling is just to shame people. Shame people for who they are or what they've said. And I don't necessarily think all the people involved in canceling necessarily think that, but as someone who's been the target themselves, it certainly feels that way. And to be clear, I don't think dogpiling is inherently a bad thing. I will gladly join a Twitter circle jerk if someone has done something illegal, has actively victimized or hurt someone, or if I believe I personally have something relevant to add to the conversation. But how often do we really see that? 90% of the time, it's just drama to show that you are actually the one that gets it. You're one of the cool ones. I also think accountability is a word that gets thrown a lot around with canceling. But that just ties back to the chaos around how many people can't agree on what canceling is. You know, when I made my initial video, Aaron Ross Katz took that video, put it on his Instagram story, and then after put that video of Meryl Streep screaming. Was that also part of holding me accountable? No. It was for entertainment, and looking back now, I can agree it's objectively funny. But let's be honest, shame and bullying isn't how you teach people to grow. It's how you show others how not to act. A great poet once said, "The veil of usernames today allows people to make complete asses out of themselves with zero accountability, and that's why there's such a disconnect between internet noise and real life. I will never forgive y'all for giving this platform," says the person that just quote tweeted the video onto his platform. And how often do we see people celebrating getting blocked by political pundits they don't like? It's all just nonsense. And by nonsense, I mean it's an inauthentic projection of moral outrage that is an easy way to make yourself look edgy and cool without actually doing anything. And there is no faster way to make someone extremely famous than celebrating how much you detest them. Bill Maher wears his cancellation on his chest like a fucking badge because apparently his nose and his ego are fighting to see who can get bigger. Oof, and my favorite example is from April 1st, 2021 when US Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene posted a video to Twitter of her doing pull-ups with the hashtag #FireFauci. As of now, this video has 13 million views. 13 million views. I can't even, like, that's insane. MTG knows that if she does literally anything that makes people upset, she will be able to take those analytics to any news outlet or any radio station and she will always have a career. The anti-vaxxers and Facebook did not give her that power. Twitter did. No, but oh my god, look at these tweets, they're so funny and original. Yay! Was that a moment for you? They're not adding anything new, they're not saying anything original. And who, pray tell, does that sound like? Yeah, that's where this is going. To be fair though, Marjorie Taylor Greene is an extreme example, but this happens all the time. Like, I agree James Corden thrusting in a mouse costume should be illegal, but I genuinely believe a reason that he gets so many of his roles are because people talk about him online. How much free press has Cinderella gotten just by being cringe? And I do think it's worth mentioning that this isn't just the people's fault, but media companies make their money from your engagement. And the more attention you give something, the more you're informing the algorithms that that topic is going to generate profit. And so they're going to give it to you more. If something truly enrages you, if it makes you feel bad about yourself, if it causes you to doubt any of your existence, the healthiest thing you can do is block it and move on. Now, let's talk a little bit about the shame. Can you guys hear my dog snoring in the back? He is fully Tango. So I've talked a little bit about how I think canceling is built not to rehabilitate, but to ostracize. Unless someone literally dies, they're not going away. The desire to push people away always reminds me of when religious people are like, there's a special place in hell for people like them. And that's really interesting to me. Like, whether or not you grew up in a religious household, you still probably grew up with the structure of God and hell. You know, some like universal and fair authority that sends bad actors to their judgment. Like, I remember a time in middle school when I was bullied and I told the teacher and was told to stay away from that individual or ignore them. So we separate those who don't get along, and then we don't teach them empathy for each other, but instead we just hope they calm down. Honestly, how many queer weirdos out there have been told like, don't worry, they'll be flipping burgers one day, so you just keep your head down. But no, Ellen, that's not true actually, because they might be my boss or my coworker or my audience member. There is no away. There is no hell to go to. Instead, I would argue we're probably living in it now. When you push people out so aggressively, it can create two extremes. Either one, a position of power where people develop emotional independence, so then it becomes easier for them to say, fuck the community, fuck the world, I'm gonna do me. And I want to love that radical girl boss energy, but that's not how we succeed in a healthy environment. It's instead how we grow into a world where people can't empathize with anyone with a situation that may put them at the tiniest inconvenience. And the second extreme to pushing people out so aggressively is isolation. And I get it. Saying that you should care about those who are actively hurting the community is not fun. And that reminds me of a video I saw of some TikTok lady giving out masks at the beginning of the pandemic.
Put your mask on, honey. Put your you can't have that needle in my car. You can't have that needle in my car. You can't do that. Yes, I need you to put that away. You go put your mask on. I'm still gonna feed you though. But it's okay. I know, honey. You having a hard time? You having a hard time? It's okay. It's okay. You're just having a hard time. It's okay. You're gonna be okay.
Now, my first reaction to this is, what's the point? The woman didn't even put on the mask properly, and she literally has needles in her hand. But you kind of just have to stop and realize that there's a power in being accepted by society. People rehabilitate through community, not raising the stakes so high that they're set up to fail. Back when this was filmed, if she was going around looking like how she did without a mask, she would absolutely be ignored, not only because of the prejudices behind how we feel about homeless people, but also because she looks like she was being unsafe in a pandemic. But specifically giving her a mask allows her to have that much more of a chance of being accepted into a society that is already permeated by fear. And if I was ever in that circumstance, I would want that. And taking that a step further, I think we can all agree that the way we treat prison reform is racist, unjust, and unproductive. We have police in the streets that are so insecure wearing their uniform that they feel they need to be judge, jury, and executioner. They're overworked and on edge. They're uneducated to deal with the circumstances in front of them, and not to mention how aggressively their feelings of prejudice come in when they're patrolling the streets. So we have a terrible system that's labeled under the name of justice that's actively destroying lives. And I find it very intriguing that many people who like to shame others online, whether on purpose or on accident, will use the same tactics as the police. Those who repeatedly cancel others online are constantly on edge because they are repeatedly shown content they don't like. And I know this because a lot of people tried to cancel me last year still follow me. They don't know how to process their emotions as to why they are so viscerally reactive to certain things. And when they lash out, their tweets expose their prejudice and lack of empathy. Now, am I saying that being canceled is like being shot by the police or being sent to prison? No, not even a little bit. but I am saying that if someone is going to sit in front of me and say ACAB, it sends off a bunch of red flags when I see them repeating the behavior that we have all agreed is bad. And again, I don't believe that these people are actively fighting against police reform by trying to cancel others. I am just pointing out the massive inconsistency that I see when I see others trying to do justice against those who deserve it. Like, it's super fucking great that you use your platform to get a racist Karen fired, but where is the line drawn? What is internet justice? Marjorie Taylor Greene is an easy target for this question. So is Barrett Paul, for that matter. But how did that become doxing catfishes or people who eat pizza and are skinny? I've actually taken some time and spoken to a lot of people that do this. And a thread I was in last year is, to me, so emblematic of what these canceling movements represent. So the conversation was about Griffin Burrows. He is a porn star. This was the alleged tweet. With all these dad vibes I give off, I wish I'd accidentally had a son at 12. He'd be 20 now. So the argument was that the tweet itself emboldens Okay, but despite that, later in the conversation when I asked what can be done, I get this. I doubt anything he has to say can remotely soften what was implied in that screenshot. Okay. Now we're getting to the juicy stuff. So if nothing can be done, then goodbye. And this is where I do have sympathy for Barrett Paul. When these dummies who want nothing but rage are constantly in your face, it's so easy to just dismiss them as haters. Because they are. They have nothing to contribute. They just want to post their shitty memes and talk about you with their screenshots. They have nothing to advocate other than that they are cooler than you. And they haven't even proven that. So to those people, I say, what have you actually done other than bitch? And when the trolls act like this, they give the victim permission to ignore everyone. And when people start ignoring everyone, best case, you get Barrett, and worst case, Actually, you know what? I don't know. No one's coming to mind. Challenge ideas. Bully people's actions. Make fun of people's delusions. I don't fucking care. All of these things are expected from the internet. But normalizing hate speech because of your bad faith interpretations and terrible media comprehension? There's no excuse. Hi, Editing Kevin here. This video is way too long and I'm getting impatient, so if you don't mind, I'm just gonna condense my next few points and, just get it over with. Now, I've spent some time today comparing canceling to some pretty extreme behavior. And although I think those comparisons are deserved because reckless behavior is still reckless behavior, I also recognize that it's an easy way for people to consciously or subconsciously excuse themselves from the discussion because of the extreme nature of the comparisons. There's always the possibility that people will dismiss the entire topic because they don't fit into the specific mold that I have in this video. But really, the crux of the cancel culture discourse is just a lack of communication and understanding. To my knowledge, Barrett Paul has never actively victimized anyone. He gets in hot water because of his incapability of communicating his anguish. And generally speaking, the people who are most aggressive online are doing it because their tiny online space is the only place they're actually able to be heard. Otherwise, they feel powerless inside of a system that's bigger than them. And now is the part of the video when I make it all about myself. It was bound to happen eventually, I'm sorry. And it's also important to recognize that communication is a two-way street. It is my responsibility as a creator to listen to those who have issues, just as it's the community's responsibility to communicate their issues with me. If you have an issue with anything that I do, you can tell me. I read every comment and message that comes my way, and I know that's the same for every single creator that has a similar size to mine. I will always be open to criticism and conversation because there is no such thing as a perfect ally, and there's always room to improve. But if you're gonna yell in my DMs or comment something that paints me like a bumbling idiot, then you'll be lucky if I ignore you, because I deserve better, and so does everybody else. So there's one thing I didn't do when going over my initial video, and that was apologize. And after thinking about it, I don't think I'm going to. The individuals that were demanding an apology are those who I don't respect, so the apology would be disingenuous anyway. Besides, an apology is to those who have been wronged, so how does it make sense to demand an apology for someone else? I'm not here to fix my image. I'm messy as hell, and I'm going to make mistakes again. Believe me, I stream for 20 hours a week. I will say something stupid, but when that does happen, my merits will be decided upon my actions, not some cobbled together notes app apology. Whenever the topic of internet forgiveness comes along, I think of Jenna Marbles. She had done some offensive things in the past, but no creator had shown as much growth or progressive outwards change as her, all while remaining in the spotlight. Her growth as a person coincided with her viewership, but that didn't protect her. Everything put on the internet will exist forever, and a not insignificant portion of the internet thinks that once you make a mistake, you're done, and that you are defined by your flaws. I doubt anything he can say can even remotely soften what was implied by that screenshot. It's so stupid. If you go around showing people that you will always be actively displeased, then you're inviting everyone to ignore you in the discourse. Sometimes you get people like Barrett who will just ignore criticism. Other times you get Piers Morgan who will use their victimization from mean people online as a way to get sympathy. And I think the situation we're in now is that canceling only holds power over people who care and can't tell how disingenuous the internet is. And I'll say, if I sound salty during this video, it's because I am. I still hold grudges against a lot of these people, and it's forever changed my outlook. But what really gets me is that I've experienced a fraction of what marginalized people get. POC, women, anyone who may not fit in is that much easier to villainize or ostracize. And that's why I care. That's why I take this so seriously. And I know there will be people out there who just want me to drop it, or whatever version of this meme they want to send me. But you know what? Also, the argument goes both ways. If you don't know how to watch a video without jumping into a cringe-induced rage, or if you don't properly know how to communicate your issues, or even if you just spend all of your time treating Twitter like a therapy session, maybe you need to touch grass. Barrett may be annoying and wrong, but so are the people attacking him with hate speech. So the next time you pick up your phone because you're just so much better than someone else, ask yourself two things. How is this helping? And what the fuck have I done? Hi, editing Kevin again. Abrupt ending because I don't know how to end things. Let's go over the books I like. Yeah? Let's do it. First off, Fear the Black Body. This is basically just a history text of how black people have been persecuted for literally existing. Great read. Super Fandom. This one's great if you kind of want to learn how fandom has evolved through the internet and how, like, batshit crazy things can get sometimes. This one's good. Cringeworthy by Melissa Dahl. This touches on a lot of topics, actually. Really useful for helping to understand, like, why things affect us so emotionally and what we can do to just kind of calm down for a second. So You've Been Publicly Shamed. This is probably the best book if you want to empathize with anyone who's been canceled. It's smart. It's good. It's really good. Gets kind of dark though, fair warning. Alright, How to Be Anti-Racist, this one's a given. This one's great. This probably paired with White Fragility, but this one's, read this one first. Both, but read this one first. Hood Feminism. Oh, so good. So articulate, so smart. Like, this will give you some perspective. This, get ready to feel bad about yourself. There you go. And the last And best one, Conflict is Not Abuse by Sarah Schulman. This one, I think the biggest takeaway I got from this book was that two people in an argument can both be wrong. So thank you for watching. Yeah. Comment below. I don't know, fucking like and subscribe maybe? Ew. Yeah, alright. That's all I got. I'm gonna upload this now. Alright, have a good day.